city lights. The KC journalist, ooh, telling stories in the night. Ooh, every page come to life. Ooh, truth that go through the mind. Hear the sirens, hear the pain. Ooh, history don't fade away. Kansas City remembers.
This is Mack, Malone, the KC journalist. Now picture this, it's 1933 and Kansas City is a wild neon-lit landscape, a time of shadows overseen by the iron-fisted city manager Henry McElroy, who was cooking books and helping the Pendergast political machine. And with John Lazia's influence, Henry became a prominent figure and very powerful within the Pendergast machine. Now, here we are at the McElroy house at 21 West 57th Street. And right here on the evening of May 27th, while Mary McElroy was relaxing in a bubble bath at this house, right here, two men named Walter McGee and Clarence Stevens posed as delivery men to trick their way inside the home. They were armed with revolvers and they made their way in, but interestingly enough, they allowed Mary a few moments of privacy to dress in a pink cotton frock before grabbing her and ultimately putting her in the car and taking her away. And it was unusual because they were showing her this kindness throughout this whole thing. Now, it instantly became a crime fueled by national headlines of high stakes and abductions, as this was becoming a regular occurrence at this time. Kidnappings were becoming regular, and unfortunately, this one was executed by amateurs, unfortunately for them, including Walter's brother, George, and a local farmer named Clarence Click. Now, we're about to go to Clarence Click's farmhouse, the house where she was held captive at. All right, and here we are. Mary was taken to this farmhouse right here at 5718 State Line Road, and she was shackled to a basement wall for 34 grueling hours in the basement right here. But yet, during this whole period of captivity, a bizarre psychological transformation began as she bonded with her captors, who treated her with a strange kindness and fed her and took care of her while she was maintaining a haunting composure, and she was really unsure of her fate. You know, sometimes people that do nice things for you have bad intentions. Now, she developed Stockholm syndrome and started getting fond of her kidnappers. And here we are at Dave's Auto Body, where the ransom was delivered and paid right here. Now, while all this was going on, Henry McElroy was living a nightmare. He was navigating through bookkeeping and the Pendergast machine favors to secure a $30,000 ransom, which was eventually paid right here. And this is where the release was negotiated. It was dropped off at this building. Now, we're going to go to the golf course that Mary was released at. And here we are at the Milburn Golf Course. Where her kidnappers, in an odd final gesture, gave her flowers and taxi fare for her ride home, and actually dropped her off and looked out for her. They dropped her off right here. But Mary didn't want to leave her kidnappers. Like I said, she had developed the Stockholm syndrome and was attached to them. So she was dropped off right here, and she made her way back to her family's house on West 57th Street. The aftermath was a media whirlwind. It was described as a media circus, even though the law moved with unprecedented speed, capturing the men after they foolishly began spending their ransom on cars and clothes, started flashing around and brought the attention to themselves. And all this leading to a trial where Walter McGee became the first man in United States history sentenced to death for a kidnapping, where the victim emerged physically unharmed. However, the true shock, and this was crazy, was Mary's reaction to all of this. And she became the kidnapper's fiercest advocate. She started visiting them and giving them gifts and going out and speaking out in public, declaring them the only friends she had. And this was just a classic display of Stockholm syndrome that eventually made her successfully petition the governor to commute Walter's death sentence to life in prison. Can you imagine that? I've never heard of that before. Usually when they get the death penalty, the victim is like, give it to them. Now, this level of mercy was detrimental to Mary's support, and it came at a devastating personal cost. I mean, the public mocked her. They mocked her alleged romance with her captors, and the Pendergast machine ended up collapsing. All of this leading to her father's forced resignation and the death in 1939. Now, she was close to her father after her mother died, and so she felt guilt, started feeling guilty for her father's death. Now, she was left alone with her trauma and a world that wouldn't let her forget those 34 hours. Mary McElroy eventually snapped and returned to this house right here where it all began on January 20th, 1940. And she took her own life, leaving behind a suicide note stating her resources were exhausted. The world was a mistake. A tragic final chapter for a woman who found more kindness in a basement with her captors than she ever found in the light of the Kansas City sun or with her family or with anything in life that would bring you happiness. And here we are. This is the last stop at the Mount Washington Cemetery where Mary was laid to rest. Her grave is right here. And it's an insane story. I mean, she was so young, and it really shows you the quick process of destruction that trauma takes on you. And she is buried right here in this beautiful cemetery. And this is her headstone right here. It took me a minute to find it. I had it tracked on the map. But she's all the way back at the nearest back point of this cemetery. So it took me a minute. But she's laid to rest right here. And this story right here was crazy. And it's really sad that a woman that was just, living life normally suffered something so traumatic that she killed herself. But this your boy Mack Malone, the KC Journalist, signing out. Peace.
He's live from the city lights. The KC Journalist, telling stories in the night. Every page come to life. Truth that go through the mind. Hear the sirens, hear the pain. History don't fade away. Kansas City remembers.